Hi everyone, welcome to the teachings of Mythical Stories episode 2. Last time we covered some basic ideas how mythical stories can carry powerful messages, and by cracking the code of their symbolic language, we can gain a better understanding of our own life situations and gain some great tools that we can use and become the conscious creators of our own journey. For today, we have three topics. We'll talk about the opening situation in the mythical stories and fairy tales. We'll talk about the call to adventure and the first challenge. The opening situation is almost always a crisis point, a painful point, a tension point, a place and situation where something turned upside down. So what are the things that lead up to this crisis point? And before I bring an example, a specific story, a folk tale, let's take a look at our own life situations before there is a crisis point. What are the things that lead up to this crisis point? Crisis arises in our lives when we don't honor something that is absolutely essential, something that is the core essence of our own being, when we forget who we are, and when we live according to other people's and society's expectations. So life becomes a routine, and we mostly follow what others want from us or what society wants from us. When we are in the trance of consumerism, and we believe that the more we consume, the happier we become, when we believe that what the status quo is suggesting, that's the truth, when we in this trance that we have to do something in one specific way to be happy and successful. So we will study something that we should instead of what we are passionate about. We choose a work we should instead of what we are really, really burning for. We look at our everyday life and what society suggests when people around us tell us what we are able to do, what we should do, what we shouldn't do, what our limits are, what's possible, what's not possible. Those ideas all come from our environment, and we tend to believe it. We tend to believe that we have to do something in one specific way. The only way to be successful is to become a doctor or lawyer or something like that. When we get tangled up, when we fall into the trance of believing what's suggested by our environment, that's where we lose something. We'll see in the story that I brought for today what exactly we lose, but we lose an essential part of our own being, and we nicely get off the path of who we could be, who we could become. We just get off the trail of self-growth and self-discovery. So the witch character, or I should say the main suggestions of society, operates with fear and with instant gratification. Fear is, oh my God, if you go against the norm, whatever the society regards as norm, something super dangerous will happen to you. One of the greatest fear people have is fear of abandonment, that people will pull away and they will stay alone if they walk their own path. And of course there's the fear of failure, the unknown. What's gonna happen to me if I walk this path? What if it doesn't work out? What if I fail? And then there's this instant gratification that we get from society through consumerism, this easy rewards we have access to. If we keep doing what's against our own nature and our spiritual growth, sooner or later life becomes a routine, and sooner or later we'll feel like a walking dead. We feel that we are not alive. Inspiration, creative energy, excitement, and joy will perish, will disappear from our everyday activities. We keep going in this routine. At one point, something will happen. A wake-up call arrives. What are these wake-up calls? Well, you can get fired, you can get a divorce, you can get sick, you can get an accident, you can get into an accident, you can experience very, very intense anxiety, depression, you can go through a burnout, a nervous breakdown. I will stop listing these horrible things, but that's what happens. We have a chance to wake up. What am I doing? What are the things that led up to my high blood pressure? What are the things that led up to depression, that I feel that there's nothing I live for? So we talk about, in society, we look at depression, anxiety, burnout, and all kind of mental health issues as the problem, as if you had a problem, and then we start treating the problem with medication, receive a label that I am depressed, I have a problem. Well, no. How about I suggest that the opposite is true? How about there's nothing wrong with you? You are just receiving a message from your body telling you that, hello, the life you're living is not aligned with the nature you have. How about you notice that inspiration and all those things are missing from your life, and your life is just a routine. So depression arrives from within. You are the one, your inner wisdom. You created this depression. By the way, I think it was Andrew Feldmar who said that depression is the lack of self-expression. Yeah, there's so many definitions of depression, and there's some great ones, but I really, really love this one because when you are unable to express who you really are and live the life you're supposed to, then you will produce depression. So anyway, going back to the crisis point, the opening scene in the opening situation in stories, this is the opening situation. There is some kind of pain, depression, anxiety, despair, and then what's the next step? What is the next step? Recently, I've been working with university students from prestigious universities, very, very smart, bright, young people, and it's just so heartbreaking that so many of them struggle. They don't like what they study. They choose their major because it was suggested by their parents. It was suggested by their environment. They don't enjoy what they study. I had a client who was passionate about becoming an interior designer, but this person was studying medicine. And with all the investment, financial investment and time and energy, this person decided to stay and become a doctor, which becoming a doctor is a beautiful, beautiful profession if that's what you want to do, if that's your passion and you're yearning to help others and become a healer. But if you want to be an interior designer, and when I work with clients who have suicidal ideations, In my experience, they don't want to die, but they don't want to live. I see a huge difference between wanting to die and not wanting to live. So when someone doesn't want to live, that tells me that this person doesn't want to live that particular life, that can be changed. It is possible to change that. And in my work, that's the choice point for these clients, and of course I help with that choice point to recognize, because so many times we don't see that we have a choice point. And that's why mythical stories are so important, because they show us that when everything is dark and everything is so hopeless, actually there is a choice point. You can only make changes in your life. You can only make new choices if you see the choice point. But for that, there needs to be some kind of clarity. So when someone goes through this experience that I don't want to live anymore, that's the absolute hopelessness, when there is total darkness, and the person doesn't see the choice point. Until now, we discussed what the things are that lead up to a crisis point in our own lives. Today, I brought a Hungarian folktale. I'm not going to share the whole story. I chose a Hungarian one because I'm from Hungary, so I love old Hungarian folktales. So the title of this story is "The Tree That Reaches the Sky," and the opening scene is. We see a king who lives in this beautiful palace, of course, with his daughter. So there is no queen, there is the daughter, the beautiful daughter, and they have a magically beautiful garden. And the young princess loves this garden and loves her father so much that she doesn't want to get married, because she feels that if she gets married, she has to leave her old father and has to leave this beautiful garden, and she just doesn't want to do that. The old king suggests that it's time to get married, but she refuses, and she makes this decision that no marriage for her. She walks out into her beautiful garden and looks around and says that I'm not gonna leave you, my beautiful garden. And that's that moment when she says that, just out of the blue, like this big storm arrives, and it's a heavy storm. Everything is dark, and there's this wind, and the wind picks up the princess and takes her away. So the storm comes and goes, and the beautiful princess disappears. And as the storm goes, we see that the beautiful garden is completely destroyed, and the old king rushes out and sees the damage, sees the destroyed garden, and realizes that her daughter is gone. So that's the opening scene, the opening situation. So the king realizes that a big dragon took his daughter, and he tries to find someone who climbs up the big tree that reaches the sky where the dragon lives. So the story begins from that point on, but this is the opening situation. It is important to state that in mythical stories, all of the characters are some aspects of ourselves. When we speak about the king, the dragon, the princess, the garden, or the magic horse, these characters are all aspects of ourselves. We can discover these characters within. So that's very important before we start analyzing the story and what the king and the princess and the garden symbolizes. Carl Jung calls these inner characters archetypes. Jung says that there are inner patterns or characters within us that are universally recognized by people of different eras, and they are accessible through the collective unconscious. So we all have access to these patterns. These patterns live within us. Okay, so let's take a look at our story. We are in this opening situation where the princess is kidnapped by the dragon. The garden is destroyed, and there is this old king, doesn't know what to do and wants to have someone who brings the princess back. So that's the crisis point. Stories usually start like this. So either there is a missing princess, or someone stole the sun or the moon. Something is missing, something turned upside down. So let's start with the first character in this particular story, the king. The king, and please remember that the king is a pattern, a character, an archetype living in you. So it's one aspect of you. You have one like this. The king symbolizes the status quo, the norm that we previously talked about. He symbolizes our ego, the personality we identify with. So the king is this character that we believe we are, character we identify ourselves with. We talk about an old king. The old king refers to personality that is rigid. So there's no movement. This very static. In life, everything is in a flow. Everything is in a movement. If there's no movement, there's death. So the king represents our belief system. Those beliefs and thoughts that either serve us or they don't. There are certain beliefs that might serve us, but even then they are just beliefs, so they are not necessarily truth. So the clean essence of the king is not who we really are, but who we believe we are. That was the king. What does the princess represent? The princess character within us represent inspiration, creativity, motivation, clarity. So this character is able to look through, see through the illusion. She represents the light. In other stories, one that later on I will bring, the prince decides to find the most beautiful princess, and that's his journey. So in that story, when he doesn't settle for ordinary princesses, or in that story, it doesn't mean that it's the most beautiful girl. It means that the most beautiful version of himself, the most beautiful expression of his existence, enlightenment. So in that story, the princess, the most beautiful princess, symbolizes enlightenment. Buddhism speaks about this quality as the vidya, which means vision. And vidya is always in flow, in movement. It's not static. It's always changes, because life itself is a constant change. This movement, this vision, this ability to not just look but see and hear and be. So that's the princess, that's the daughter in the story. What happens when it goes missing, when it gets kidnapped? Why does that happen? When the routine and the old king character is so strong that movement slows down and becomes static, when our identification with the shoulds and shouldn't and limitations and boundaries are become our reality, when we don't see through the veil of illusion, and slowly this movement, this vision, the enthusiasm, inspiration, and creative forces evaporate. So that's what happens in the story. The king is old, There's this rigidity. The princess needs to remarry, and a new prince, like a new king should take over. There needs to be some change, but there isn't. So what happens in our lives when the princess character, the princess archetype Vidya, disappears? Well, that's when we experience a massive burnout, a nervous breakdown, depression, all these symptoms, and I speak about them as symptoms, just like an arrow point towards missing princess, this quality that got kidnapped. So the dragon that we also talk about kidnaps the princess. The dragon, I'm going to make a completely separate video about the dragon because that's a so important character. For now, just let's say that the dragon is always a big challenge in our lives, and the dragon symbolizes fear. So many times we have challenges, we perceive limitations, even if the limitations are not necessarily there, but we perceive limitations because we are scared. So fear takes creativity away, kidnaps her, and the garden dies. In part one, we talked about our inner garden. So the inner garden is all those beautiful qualities, the colors within. Again, we'll talk about the garden and the different elements of the garden in a different video. But in this story, we see it right away that when inspiration and creativity and vision and movement and light, the light is missing, our inner garden dies. It's a perfect symbolic situation to a burnout, depression, illness, heavy, painful situations where we feel stuck, where we feel hopeless, and we don't know what to do. So we need a prince. We need a prince who will decide to go and have this journey and hopefully bring the princess back. All right, so our first topic for today was the opening situation in a story. I think we covered that. The second topic is the call to adventure, is when in the crisis the hero sees that, okay, I decide, I go, I step on this journey. In this story, the tree that reaches the sky, we'll have a young man who decides to go and bring the princess back. He's the hero. His name is John. In most Hungarian folk stories, the main character is little Johnny. Most of the time, he is the youngest prince or the youngest boy in the family. That's interesting why he's the youngest one. But anyway, in this story, we'll have this character John, and he's the hero. So there is the call to adventure. There is the challenge. Like he needs to climb up that tree that reaches the sky where the dragon lives, and he will need to face many challenges, obviously. So there is a call to adventure. Is he going to decide to go, or he is not going to decide to go? He can nicely stay at home, basically, why not? Or he actually wants to bring the princess back. And that is a big decision point for us. That are we going to settle for what we know? Are we going to settle for the king? Or are we going to step on this path and face our dragons and challenges and climb up the tree, find the dragon, face the dragon, and get the princess back? And that's the choice point of Neo in Matrix, the movie Matrix. Which pill is he going to take? The red one or the blue one? What a choice point that is. So that's the call to adventure. Red pill or blue pill. And then right away, when we decide to walk the journey, walk the hero's journey, then right away there's the first challenge. First challenge usually arrives in the form of inner voices or voices around us. First challenge that the hero faces with is self-doubt, telling us that, oh, maybe it's not a great idea, that yeah, I really want to go, I really want to, I know I want to go, but it's dangerous. Maybe it's safer to stay at home. Maybe it's safer to stay in this job. Maybe it's safer to stay in this marriage. Maybe it's safer to stay on the couch. And then it's not just self-doubt, but so many times, most of the time, when we decide to do something big, something that we are really aligned with, well, our environment will give us feedback. Tend to receive messages that, are you crazy? Are you really risking your awesome job? Are you really going to travel to India and face all kind of dangerous things? Or those voices are really strong. The voices inside and the voices around us, the messages from society, squeeze the hero, and try to pull the hero back. This very first challenge is an important one. Are we going to step on this path and face with the first challenges, the voices within and the voices around us, or and overcome and continue the journey, or we go back and settle? So that's a choice point too. That's a big decision as well. One more thought for today, that as long as we identify with the material existence, we will be in constant crisis. So just because we are able to find better solutions in our lives and get a better job or a better marriage or whatever, we might be happier, might do better in life. But if the spiritual aspect is missing, the spiritual growth, we will keep bumping into painful situations. And these ancient stories, these mythical stories, they actually talk about their main message is a spiritual message. It is important it can be super important to make our lives better. And there is this other dimension that I will always bring up, because that's the ultimate dimension. As I mentioned before, the princess who symbolizes enlightenment, spiritual path, when we realize that beyond this material existence, there is something more. There's something more, and that's where vidya, clarity, and vision can take us. Vidya, the movement, the light. So that's where we are going to continue next time. We have a situation, we have a missing, kidnapped princess. Creativity, the light is missing. There is the old king, the destroyed garden, and the hero who will decide to go on this journey. Thank you. Thank you.